I'm going to go over AMC and GameStop on the 5-minute time frame and give you price targets for Friday. First up, AMC, we ended the day at 665, down more than 7%. The day's low, 664. The day's high, $7.18. Volume higher than normal with 20.3 million shares traded. We typically see 19.2 million shares traded. This is where we ended. Back to the middle of the trend and the baseline, and in this case, resistance and a possible take profit area, 692. Above that, at another level of resistance and take profit area, possibly, depends on when you bought in, 727, 744, and 762. To the south side, at -2 standard deviations and another level of support and a possible buy-in area, 658. This was the 1 week low that I tracked, and -3 standard deviations and support, a potential bounce area, 640, and another support area, 622. The RSI is at 31 and still pointing down on the 5-minute time frame. Now, yesterday when I talked about this, the price was at 717 for the end of the day. We were at resistance, and what happens at resistance? People take their profit and they run. That's exactly what happened. We went down back to the middle of the trend, and from where we were up here to down here is support. We went sideways here, went up a little bit, back down, did not make it down, obviously, to this level or -2 standard deviations, but went sideways. And when we are down here and race back up, this turns into resistance. What happens at resistance? It started to fall down, went sideways, and then here we are. Note, looking left, this is resistance. People sold off, took their profits, support. This is the zone here, bounced up, fell back down, bounced back up, and we went chopped up and down, and then this gap formed on, let me move that out of the way. On the 28th, we gapped up, which means I will anticipate a gap down, but we did gap up and we closed out this gap to the upside at 715, only made it up to 3 standard deviations. And I never expect price to hit 4 standard deviations. That's asking for a lot in one day. It happens, but not that often. But all day long, it can go to 2 standard deviations, between 2 and 3. So that gap filled, we fell down, and then this gap closes out at 673, as I mentioned on Wednesday. And today we closed right there. We touched. So this gap is no longer in play, and we are filled. Right there. Done. Now I'll look for other gaps to the upside and to the downside. But on the daily, time frame here, we are looking at getting back to the middle of the trend would take us, it's hard to see because I've marked this out so many times. There, that's a little bit better. The middle of the trend right here takes us to roughly, what is that? $11? Gosh, it's hard to see that. 1143, these are, ignore my horizontal lines. Those are previous support and resistance lines. but I did track this gap, and that will close to the upside at roughly $19.45. We are not in that zone, not yet. Look at the channel is going down. That's not a good sign. So I will be tracking this, but I just want to show you the RSI there at 34, going down, so still selling off. On the weekly, looks like we hit 29 and going sideways a little bit. Plenty of room to the upside. And on the monthly, we are still falling down. All right, next up, GameStop. RSI on the 5-minute is at 34. We ended the day at $14.55, down a whopping 10%. The day's low, $14.32. The day's high, $16.33. And this is where we ended. There's a gap that started at $15.42, working our way down there. But I'll give you price targets to the north side. The middle of the trend and resistance takes us to $16.30, roughly $18.50, $19.61, and $20.68. To the south side at -2 standard deviations and a possible bounce area as people buy the dip, $14.06. The gap closes out at $13.54. We're very close to that. We are in the zone for that gap to be filled out. If not on Friday, I anticipate it next week, $12.98 and $11.89. That does it for me. Thank you so much for watching.